right. Then we got Hyper Guyber 2 sending in a $2 super chat saying George R.R. Martin, or as I call him, discount Robert Jordan.
There you go.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, well, with that, let's bring that up because that's
let's do that.
The other big news of the morning. George R.R. Martin blames you and Trump for not finishing his work.
This should be good.
George R.R. Martin says anti-fans rule social media and dance to the graves of movies that flap. It used to be fun talking about our favorite films.
It's your fault.
George, it has always been this way with nerds. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, and it's your fault that the vitriol became so quote-unquote toxic in your super leftist words.
He says the era of rational discourse seems to have ended. Is he posted on a personal blog? I found I had no appetite for living through any of that again. 2023 was a nightmare of a year for the world and the nation, and for me and mine, both professionally and personally. I'm very glad that it's over. Well, guess whose fault is that? Anyway.
And also, when the hell are we going to stop blaming individual years? I mean,
right?
2023 didn't do jack shit. It's a piece on the calendar. You think 24 is going to be any better? I got news for you.
I thought these folks all said the answer to this was Biden. It doesn't seem to be
That's
working.
what they did say. Everything was going to be fantastic. I mean, right now.
Well, but wait a minute. You guys realize your anti-woke economic bad guys, because I can't say the T word here. We wiped out $5 trillion in stock value because we weren't fans of ESG in the message, guys. So it's your fault, all of you.
Yeah.
So anyway, he goes on here
with the programming.
No.
He goes, take solace where I can in chocolate thrones, if nowhere else, in books, in films and television shows, though even there toxicity is growing. Well, what do you think we have to do since all this new crap garbage, Mr. Martin? Used to be fun talking about our favorite books and films and having spirited debates with fans who saw things different. But somehow, in this age of social media, it is no longer enough to say, I did not like book X or film Y, and here's why. Now social media is ruled by anti-fans who would rather talk about stuff they hate than the stuff they love. And delight on dancing in the graves of anyone whose films have flopped. It's all so sad. Who do you think he's talking about here?
Well,
he's describing Schadenfreude, which has been around for centuries. So
I think that's more geared towards YouTubers.
Yeah,
I hate everything, you know.
Probably Gary first and foremost. Secondarily,
I was just thinking.
Us and all of us. Yeah.
So Martin knows a thing or two about contending with anti-fans on social media, given the extreme backlash that met the final season of HBO's Game of Thrones, which is based off his ongoing book series. The author is also involved in the prequel series House of Dragon, confirming in December that he got to screen the first 2 episodes of the upcoming new season. I'm hardly objective when talking about anything based on my own work, but I have to say I thought both episodes were great. Martin wrote to his fans at the time, dark, mind you, very dark. They may make you cry. I did cry myself, but one of my friends, did not cry myself, but one of my friends did. Powerful, emotional, gut-wrenching, heart-rending. Just the sort of thing I like. What can I say? I was weaned on Shakespeare and love the tragedies and history plays best of all. Blah, 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 blah. So it's all your fault. He's not going to finish writing shit.
Yeah, it has been, I think, I want to say, I could be wrong, like 4,700 days since the last book release.
I'll bet you he's writing, though, something.
Yeah, it's not.
Something, yeah, but not what he needs to write. He's not finishing the story. It needed to be finished. So
it's been a long time.
It's kind of like a joke because it will never be concluded in his form. It will only be concluded by the way, by way of the TV series, which was done by what turned out to be the true anti-fans, namely Donnelly and Oppenheimer, the showrunner of the series. Those were the real anti-fans you need to be worried about. Because they're the ones that destroyed his work.
Benioff and wife, you mean?
Sorry, Benioff and wife. Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Big head,
those
little
guys
head.
are part of the bigger group of problems because they managed to weasel their way into the industry through nepotism and financial, legacy money from their families. And there's lots of other peoples that are like them through that, where they don't really know how to write. They pilfer, they quote unquote adapt, and they repackage, and they become the benefits of it, and they use that as a currency to build up their profile, which worked very well for the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. And then that started to slowly waver over time. And now they are almost persona non grata in the industry because any of the other stuff that they have done has not really made any waves in the same fashion that Game of Thrones had.
Yeah. X-Men Origins Wolverine was such a smash hit. And that was one of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Lest we forget about that. Yeah, I just think that this is a old man screaming at the clouds who is way out of touch, gaslighting and blaming everyone else for the fact that he is no longer capable of finishing the stories. He doesn't.
Are you
know
talking
what to
about
do.
me?
Not originally, but
that pretty much describes me. I go, wow, that's pretty.
If the depend diaper fits, sir.
Yeah, exactly. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, or something like that. But anyway, as for Martin, then no, like he obviously wasn't going to finish those books, whatever, because everything he's been doing the last few years, he's been taking on all these other kind of things that obviously do get in the way of finishing the story, which tells me he doesn't want to, probably because he can't do it.
Hire somebody
more
else to do it. Jesus Christ, at this point. Sorry, but
Yeah, get the ghostwriter.
yeah. Like, what else? Who gives a shit at
That's
this
right.
point? Like, he probably hasn't had a ghostwriter for the last 3 or 4 books he's written anyway.
All I know is that if you're a writer, it's pretty hard to stop writing because stuff just keeps burbling up in your brain.
Yeah,
I
but
just got just a bunch of other things.
But it's
like on the
other
go.
stuff that burbles up, not really pertaining to this one story. That
Right,
really
right.
needs
It's
to
just
go
that
up.
those things are more interesting to him.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he has to exhaust those before, Game of Thrones becomes interesting to him again. And that's when he will finish that book. And he could possibly pass away before that happens.
Yeah, that's what people are worried about, because like he's not getting any younger,
or
he's not
thinner,
getting any fitter, he's not getting any healthier, and basically, like every single morning when he wakes up, he should be grateful. Yes, I got another day. He is at that stage.
And here I am doing yoga so I can keep writing, and I wrecked my shoulder and I can't write. There's just no winning.
Yeah.
Try typing, then you can't hurt yourself.
Typing, that's what I do.
Oh, you just said you can't write.
He hurt his shoulder. All the tendons and ligaments are affected in the fingers.
I euphemistically call typing and writing all the same thing.
So you can't give your keyboard the fingers.
No, you're making me go places where I choose not to.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be south of the Canadian border.
I'm happy to go south, play some golf.
There you go. Hey, we should play golf sometime, Paul.
That'd be good. I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
But to round out this piece of conversation, do you think that George R.R. Martin is ever going to finish not the last one, but the last 2 books, which are going to be more than 1,000 pages each? So, do we think that he has like 2,000-3,000 more pages of Game of Thrones in him? And would anyone care at this point?
You mean, do we expect him to finish off the story the way it should have been?
And even if you don't expect it, which you shouldn't, does anyone even care at this point?
I think people would, but I think wouldn't it be an embarrassment to the existing property? I mean, even if he didn't like what he saw there.
I would say that him not finishing is going to ruin the existing property, because why, like 1 year from now, 5-10 years from now, why would anyone have any interest in going to pick up the Game of Thrones books? for an unfinished work that was finished in a TV series, and everybody hated the conclusion.
Yeah.
Because showrunners had to run to go off to do Star Wars.
So
they
how
blew
different?
It so badly they were fired from Star Wars.
But then how different would that be for, let's say, you know, when Star Trek did not finish its 5-year mission, people went off and wrote the remainder of the 5-year mission.
Well, that's a completely different thing, because Star Wars didn't Star Trek never began with the pilot episode of Kirk being assigned the Enterprise or anything like that. Every episode was standalone, and for all we know, that could have covered the whole 5-year mission. It could have covered 1 year of the 5-year mission, or if you're a fan of the animated series, that was year 4 and 5.
Right.
But whatever happened, you were never going to get you never got the beginning of the mission, and you never got an end of the mission. That was never the point. Whereas Game of Thrones was written with a very clear beginning that was working towards an end, setting up storylines. It wasn't a monster of the week thing. It was these specific characters, these specific storylines. It got a shit conclusion in the series, and it just ended in the books. Never got concluded. I think that is something that means that those books are gradually going to end up being forgotten, as people will rather, future generations, those that still read books and are still interested in science fiction and fantasy, are going to gravitate more towards the completed works rather than the incomplete ones. Just my theory. I could be wrong.
Makes sense.
From my perspective, I'd be happy to read George's proper conclusion to the show.
Everyone would, but you're not getting it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Newsflash, it's pretty much what we got from what we heard. Yeah. Like, he gave them the basic footnotes.
Oh, he did, eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's a story there. That's based on his notes.
That I didn't know. I thought they went off on their own. And
no, they never did. No, so maybe part of the problem is that
that's what I think ending. It is.
They abbreviated it. Everyone hates it, and now he can't do it, and he doesn't know what else to do.
That's my thought. That's my gut instinct on this. Is that he always knew where this was going. He gave them the footnotes or whatever on the show. They did it. The reaction was what it was. And now he's sitting here going, well, I can't do what I had originally planned, but that's logically where this goes. And and he can't get his head wrapped around anything else. And he's being a big fucking baby because he knows either he's got to go with what he has on the show, or he has to come up with something completely different. And he chances doing something even worse, right? And he saw the reaction to this. And that's where he's saying, like, fandom is toxic. Well, it's only toxic when it comes to him. See, that's what he means, right? Because this is where you talk about, like, I'm trying to figure out what world he's living in where nerds didn't get into knockdown, drag out fights over fucking Spock and Kirk or something, or Picard and Kirk or something like that back in the day. I've seen plenty of nerds getting into fucking fist fights over stupid shit. Right. And so some of the stupidest shit in the world. So that's what he's talking about. No, that was not discourse, my friend. It was just as bad as it was now. But problem is, you're the one at the other end of the stick. Right. That's the problem. Instead of you being able to go, well, that TNG episode fucking sucked. It's everybody going, well, that Game of Thrones ending fucking sucked. And guess what? You're the guy that created it. So now you're at the end of the ire of that shit. That's why, or you're the one who's getting the ire is what I mean. And that's basically what his problem is here. He's looking at it going, well, I got to fix this, and I can't fix it. I'm not that good.
Well, it's the narcissism you're describing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that we've had to contend with for a while. The crowd that always says, well, you don't agree with me, so you're wrong. You know, everybody's going to have a different opinion on stuff. I mean, you know, but the problem is that if you don't share an opinion, and this is how you end up with this tribalism and other garbage in all aspects of our lives now, is because you don't allow for the idea of other ideas.
I didn't expect the Tom rant to come out of George R.R. Martin, but yeah, look, I could give a fuck about Game of Thrones.
I've been saying this now for a long time, 4 years, since publicly, since I've been on the platform. This dude's one cheeseburger away from dead. So, yeah. We're not
I
getting.
Are you kidding me?
Weird Al
He probably
Yankovic did a
cheeseburgers.
joke about that in front of him
Mm.
years ago. I mean, the dude's on overtime as it is.
I was gonna say he's fucking sweating beef, man. Like, all right,
Sure.
we gotta get through some of these super chats so before we start losing.
And Robert says George R.R. Martin's publishers don't have him under a time contract. Shouldn't they be most upset with profit loss script? Yeah.
Well,
All
it depends on
Zach
how
Webster.
if their consistency selling their other A Song of Ice and Fire books, then they'll be fine, because what they'll end up doing is building up what's called the anticipatory market, which means that if the books he's already written are still publishing and are being published and are moving off the shelves, then all they have to do is what they've been kind of doing with George R. R. Martin's Not a Blog, which he talks about a little bit of the development of the next book. He releases little snippets of other character stuff and things that orbit that. And he is generating more. If he's generating more sales, then they're not going to care. And if the only time they're going to care is if he passes away before he turns in the final manuscript. That's going to be it. And unless they do have, I mean, with him, it's been what, 10, 11 years since he's released a book, 12 maybe. That's part of this actual storyline. I'll have to be corrected by that because I don't follow the books as closely, and I haven't seen the actual
as far
series
as
really.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's done some spin-offs and stuff, but that's
like, yeah, I know he's done some spin-offs. I know he's done some like appendices or things of that nature for it, which again, if he's producing something for that publishing contract, doesn't have to be exactly A Song of Ice and Fire. They're not going to be bothered by him. He'll probably have one or two agents calling him up on a scheduled basis, like, you know, are you any closer to finishing the manuscript for the next book, The Winds of Winter, or what have you? And he will let them know. He'll report back. But if he's still turning in other stuff that they can publish and they can move, they're overall going to be fine with it. And so far, that's what George R. R. Martin has been doing. So.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 AM Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.